Hello again, beautiful beings, and welcome back to another Monday live at 5:55 or 2:55 or 1:55 or wherever you are in the world watching this. I'm just really grateful that you are here. Today we are talking all about how to reprogram your mind. And what better time to do that? I mean, this is such a pivotal time on the planet, and I just feel like there is more and more awareness around behaviors, patterns, actions, reactions that are just simply not serving us. So, this is a great time to check in with yourself and really understand what's going on at a neurological level, because today is going to be quite a scientific video. But what's really cool about the scientific approach is that I channeled all of it and then got it validated that it was rooted in science. So it's pretty badass. And I actually just channeled that this morning and figured this is the perfect time to talk about this kind of stuff. I will say YouTube's been really weird. So I am going to take some time, probably today, if not this week, to take down a couple of the more contentious, conspiratory type videos, because there's been a little bit of, I don't know, just like weird stuff going on with YouTube as far as like my channel. So hopefully sometimes when I take down some of those videos, it kind of helps the YouTube algorithm not shadow ban. But yeah, just some weird stuff. Just a reminder, all of YouTube videos and an additional 8 brand new video drops are all released on my membership platform every single month. So just know that if we're taking off YouTube videos, you can find them all on elizabethapril.com. It's really that simple. And what else did I want to mention before kind of deep diving into reprogramming your neural networks? This month for the membership, I am talking all about the downfall of the new Earth. So we've got 5 videos all dedicated to that downfall. And, you know, I do pre-record those videos, but wow, what a month to talk about the downfall of the new Earth, and what a day to talk about reprogramming our brain, our own mind. So please check that out. Next month in April, I am talking all about inner child, how to clear inner child's trauma, how to work with your inner child, and how to have fun again. So if you're interested in any sort of inner child work and really tuning in, please check out next month's videos on the membership platform as well. The very last Galactic Federation Summit, so that would be episode 3, 2023, was all about dreams, the different the dream dimensions, the age of Aquarius and what to expect and what's going on. We also talked about cosmic disclosure. Is this some sort of Project Bluebeam type of conspiracy, or is this actual real disclosure that we can all get excited about? And so the Galactic Federation spoke on those topics and so many others. So if you're interested in any of that, please check out episode 3, 2023. And then just planting a seed, we're going to have a really big sale starting April 1st. So we will start promoting that March 31st. But yeah, so we're going to be doing 25% off everything on the website. I don't think memberships are included in that, but if you've wanted to get a course or purchase a workshop or anything like that, 25% off everything. And then on top of that, for April 1st and 2nd only, we are giving away a free wellness bundle to anyone who makes a purchase. So even if you make an $11 purchase, you get 25% off that, and then you get a wellness bundle, which includes meditations and a wellness journal, Once again, this is a really tough time for a lot of starseeds with mental health, so we were kind of brainstorming, how to give back and what would really help people at this time. So please mark your calendar for that, especially if you do want to buy something. That is the time to buy something when you got all of those discounts and then the wellness bundle. Before I begin this video, I do want to give a little disclaimer and say I'm not a licensed therapist, I'm not a psychologist, I'm definitely not a neuroscientist, but I am going to explain where this information came from and how it came through once again just this morning and how important it is. So let's just go ahead and get started with why is this important? Why is it important to understand what a neural network is, and then also why we should be reprogramming our brain at this time? And I have two things for why this is important. First of all, it is so important to clear away any sort of pre-existing trauma at this time. And we can think about trauma also as stuck energy. So anything that is holding you back, anything that you have not resolved, and we're talking, probably mostly this lifetime and childhood, but we're also talking about past lifetimes and really any sort of trauma that's stuck in you. But like I said, emphasis on this lifetime just because it does get stuck in our bodies and in our brains, which we're going to talk about. And then the second reason why it's so important to talk about neural networks and reprogramming your brain at this time is to really create freedom from old habit patterns, right? That is the most important factor here. We have all been brainwashed. We have all been programmed by society. We have all been programmed by our ancestral trauma or the way that our parents raised us or didn't really raise us. And it's time now to recognize those patterns that are not serving us and be done with them, right? And really step into our own sovereignty and freedom at a neurological level. Okay. So let me talk about the download that I had just this morning. And then the confirmation that I got with that download. So a couple of you know that I have been in therapy, I think for about a year and a half now. And my main intention with therapy was to get rid of any sort of old lingering traumas before getting pregnant and having a kid to make sure that I'm not passing those traumas on. And it was perfect because started the therapy, got pregnant. I'm doing all the things that I wanted to do, which is awesome, and clearing so much along the way. So I didn't know this, but my therapist is a specialist in something called IFS, Integrated Family Systems. And despite the title, it has nothing to do with family whatsoever. Essentially, the practice looks at the different aspects of self that basically split off when you go through some sort of trauma. And trauma looks different for everyone, so keep that in mind. And the whole integration aspect is let's bring these fractals, let's bring these aspects of self back together. Right? And I actually did a whole video on integrated family systems, which was really freaking epic, by the way. So you can check that out. I think it's not on YouTube anymore. It is on my website. So essentially what I was doing today was I was checking into my systems, right? My internal dialogue, my exiles, my firefighters, my control tendencies, just all of the different little aspects of self. And as I'm doing it, I'm seeing this visual, and the visual looks like one big circle. And then it looks like all of these offshoots from this circle in the middle. And the circle in the middle was my unified self. That's how I interpreted it. And then all of the little offshoots were all these like kind of little personality traits, these, aspects of self, right? Maybe one is really good at sports and maybe one's really creative and artistic and those kind of things. And then I saw this I'll just describe it. It was basically like this really bright white light that was a part of the systems, and it felt like angelic energy. And all of a sudden, when I was observing these internal systems, I had this realization of, I'm looking, this is going to sound really weird, but it was like, oh my God, I'm looking at the inside of my brain. And this looks like neural networks, right? And every little circle is like a neural connector. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm looking at the neural patterns, the neural networks of my brain. And this bright white light, as I interpret it as kind of angelic frequency, when I made that connection to my own mind, it actually came through as, once again, it's going to sound weird, but as the chemical hormones that are washing over my brain during pregnancy. And what it felt like is these chemical hormones washing over my brain is really softening all of my neural networks, and it's allowing me to observe everything objectively, a lot more than I usually do, rather than being in the networks or being in the parts of myself. Okay, so I was explaining this to my therapist, and I said, is there any sort of correlation between the different parts or fractals of ourself and the brain chemistry and these neural networks? Because I'm pretty sure I just saw the inside of my brain and how it's functioning and connecting, and how these new pregnancy hormones are actually changing the chemical compounds, or at least allowing me a different way to observe to help me change my networks. And she says, wow, it's so crazy because integrated family systems actually started with a neuroscientist, and he was taking a look at the brain and how the brain can change when we take a look at the parts. And so she's like, I'm pretty, I mean, it's my therapist, right? So she's like, I'm really blown away by you even just bringing that up. She's like, what incredible validation that you were picking up on, because that's how this whole system got started. And I thought it was just a theory. I thought integrated family systems was just a theory, and let alone it's actually deeply rooted in science. Now, let's talk about trauma, and then we're going to talk about the prefrontal cortex and how that really is the filter when reprogramming our brain, okay? So trauma. When a trauma occurs, it stunts the neural connections. Now think about your neural connections, your brain waves, as really being in control of everything, being in control of your reaction, your fight or flight response, your attachments, the way that you respond to the world around you, the way that you perceive, even the way that you emote, right? Our brain is basically this quantum computer, and it is quite intelligent. However, when we go through a trauma, especially in childhood, those neural networks, those pathways get stunted. And they get stuck in a certain pattern. And then we repeat and we repeat and we repeat the pattern. And that's where things like attachments, addictions really stem from. It's just a neural connection, not necessarily being complete or being connected to the prefrontal cortex. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So once again, when a trauma occurs, it stunts the neural connection until we relink them. All right? So what's really great is something called neuroplasticity, which is what I brought up to my therapist as well, which surprisingly is a very relatively new concept when thinking about the brain. It was always believed for a very long time that you just can't teach an old dog new tricks, and once your brain is set a certain way, especially after the age of 25, you're screwed for life with the brain that you have. And that's just not true, right? So there's been a lot of studies done on something called neuroplasticity, which essentially is the understanding that our brain can completely change its function at any time, at any stage in our life. So you could be 65 and completely reprogram your brain, or older, right? Now, that being said, through trauma, when we are an adult, we can reprogram or even stunt our brain, or through something else, we can totally open and expand our brain to new possibilities. So neuroplasticity is just important to understand that at any time, at any stage, at any age, no matter how much trauma you've been through, it is scientifically proven that you are capable of totally reprogramming your neural networks and your brain, which once again dictates and rules over every action, every decision, every thought, every emotion, every process of being human. Okay. Cool. Fun fact, I just wanted to put it in there. I believe through my own experience in channeling that something like plant medicine has the capability of completely reprogramming your brain, or maybe not reprogramming it, but allowing the neural pathways in your brain to be cleared out. Like, this is the way that I see it, but once again, I haven't gotten this part in particular validated. So if you do know this information scientifically, please comment below. But the way that I see plant medicine integrating into our neural networks is that it's almost like when a neural network is stunted by trauma or by just not being used, then it kind of gets a little bit calcified, okay? There's actually something there that's holding it in place. And I believe that plant medicine can actually allow us to have a clean slate within our own mind. It doesn't necessarily reprogram everything because plant medicine doesn't have a program. It's almost like it clears out our mind. It clears out the previous programming to allow us to then kind of upload and install a new software, a new program. Now, I'm not a big advocate of plant medicine, mostly for the reason that a lot of people externalize the work that we could do without plant medicine into plant medicine, thinking that it's just going to do all the work for you. And that's the one reason why I don't promote it often. But once again, from what I have channeled and tuned into, it can really be a huge help if we're really stuck. And this is where a lot of the recent studies are coming out with things like anxiety and depression. I think I heard a stat just the other day that one experience of psilocybin, which would be magic mushrooms, can actually, I don't know if they use the word cure, but can allow depression to go away for up to 5 years, which is pretty wild, right? I mean, think about all the pharmaceuticals and pretty much all the bullshit around depression. So there are brand new studies coming out, and there are states right now and even countries that are legalizing plant medicine, and it's just being thought of in a whole new way. And I think that there is some real scientific evidence that we are going to see in our lifetime, if not in the next couple of years, that is going to prove the fact that plant medicine, as I believe is a technology from the stars, can actually help us reprogram and take better control, freedom, sovereignty of our own mind. And that's just like a total offshoot of this. But yeah, I'm here for it. All right. So once again, neural networks are in charge of when and how we think, of our actions, of our perceptions, are all geared around this. Our impulse control, our fight or flight is all geared around our neural networks, the way that our brain works and processes the world around us. So, how do we reprogram the brain? How do we reprogram our neural networks? Okay. By utilizing our PFC, our prefrontal cortex, right up here, okay? Now, our prefrontal cortex is essentially our cognitive control function. The way that I think about our prefrontal cortex is the filter of our brain, or the filter of awareness, all right? So the only thing that we need to do, this is going to sound crazy and so simple, but this is really, there's only one step involved here, okay? It's having awareness for the program that we've been running in our own brain is the only thing that we need to do in order to reprogram that aspect of our brain. Okay? So scientifically, what we're doing is we are tethering in the neural pathways that have been fragmented, that have been stunted, that have been disconnected from the whole of our brain. We are tethering them in to this awareness filter. So a really good example is if you have an addiction to, let's say, food, okay? And your impulse control, your program that you've been running since you were a child, because your parents would fight or there would be some sort of abuse in the house, and instead of talking to you about it or healing the issue, they would pass you a bag of chips and you would be quiet, and that was the coping mechanism as a child, which eventually, fed into, no pun intended or pun intended, a food addiction. Okay, and now food is your comfort, and that is the programming from the trauma in childhood. So what happens is the impulse control will say, I'm hungry, I need to eat. And there's no checks or balances internally. There's just action. Now, of course, we can then relay this to drug addictions. We can relay this to even maybe shopping addictions or TV addictions or, alcohol addictions as well, right? Really sort of addictions are a great example of pre-programming because it's something that we attach to that we don't necessarily take the time to check in with, even though we battle the behavior, all right? So what happens is when we start to utilize our prefrontal cortex to bring awareness to the behavior of the neural pathways of the programming, we start to filter the behavior. We start to bring objective awareness to the actions that we are taking, rather than just taking the actions. It's like that split second in between you doing something and thinking about it. It's like, should I really do this? With a program or an addiction, there's no thinking about it. There's no questioning it. The prefrontal cortex, the awareness of the behavior, is actually the filter that's going to help connect those two and eventually prevent you, okay, from taking that behavior. And thank you so much, Doug, for that super chat. Okay. So what does this all mean? It means, from an unscientific level, that all you actually need to do to reprogram your brain is to have awareness around the behavior that you are participating in. Think about it this way. Every time you have a thought, a negative thought, a self-worth thought, or an addictive behavior or tendency, anytime you have a thought, an action, an emotion that doesn't align to your highest good, and you bring awareness to that, and you ask yourself if that's benefiting your highest good, or however you want to bring your awareness to it, you're creating this gap between just being in it, being in that pattern, program, neuropathway, and observing it. And I'm telling you right now, that will change everything. Yeah. Okay, so if you are saying to yourself right now, all right, EA, this all sounds good, but I don't catch myself. I'm so busy during the day. I've got so much going on that I have a hard time catching myself in these behaviors. I mean, think about, which is also a pun, think about having awareness around all of your thoughts all day long. Sounds exhausting, right? You're already exhausted just doing the bare minimum. Well, I have, which is so beautiful how this information is coming through, And yet I've kind of always been very aware of the whole reprogramming aspect. I think the first lecture I ever did was Reprogram Your Reality. Like, I literally think that was the title of my lecture. And that was way back in the day. So this is a huge passion of mine. And so I've actually developed 2 different courses that help you reprogram your brain. They also say it takes 21 days of a new behavior or a new awareness, a new neural pathway connection to reprogram your brain. And that's been scientifically studied. So the first course that I developed is a 30-day Get Woke Bootcamp. And all I'm doing is I'm being your accountability partner within this course to make sure that every day you are checking in and utilizing your prefrontal cortex as a filter device. It's really what it comes down to. It's so simple. It's like 4 or 5 questions a day that you have to answer. And by the second week of doing this every day, you're going to start to notice an incredibly dramatic uptick in your own awareness of your thoughts, of your emotions, of your body, of your state of being, of where you're at, and you're going to reconnect these processes in your brain. That's the 30-day Get Woke Bootcamp. If you're ready to fully deep dive and reprogram every aspect of your entire life, I would recommend the Shift Masterclass. It took me a whole year to develop this. We are month 6 of redoing it. It's all the same information. It's just better audio quality and better graphics, but all the same information. It is a 2 to 3 month course that will completely reprogram you. And that's like a way deeper dive, and you do need way more time to dedicate to the Shift Masterclass than you do to the 30-day Get Woke Bootcamp, okay? This is not a shameless plug. It's not. I did not do this video to talk about these courses. I'm talking about these courses because sometimes it's hard to stick to something without a structure to it. And I am a very A-type structured person. And if I have something that I know I need to do every day that's going to get me to the results I want, I'm going to do it. Okay, so I want to let you know that help is out there in the form of these courses, and I'm sure other things as well. But it's the structure that some people need to utilize that filter device. All right, so please keep that in mind, that there is help out there. And that being said, please question everything. Question your actions, question your reactions, question your attachments. Question if this is what you want to do. Do I really want to waste the next hour watching TV or scrolling on my phone? Do I really want to eat that next bag of chips? You know, allow yourself a pause in between your thoughts and your actions. And when you can pause and objectively be aware of these thoughts and actions consistently, you are well on your way to reprogramming your brain, which will reprogram your entire reality. Because remember, thoughts create things. To get a hold of your thoughts at this time on planet Earth is everything. So it's time to take radical responsibility for where you're at in your life and understand that you are the only one who put yourself there in your life. And it's time to change. The time, my friends, is now. It's time to no longer feel stuck or helpless or alone. You've got this, and you are so supported along the way. As always, thank you so much for joining me for another epic video. Please be sure to like, share, and smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. That really does help me out and give me the support back. And yeah, until next time, I will see all of you in the 5th dimension frequency. Bye for now.